Okay, so now we're looking at tools and services. We need Hover, Netlify, and VS Code to do this. Let's take a look at Hover. Hover is where we purchased our domain name. After we have our purchased domain names, we can go ahead and log into the control panel and take a look at all of our domains and set the DNS records from there. So this is the domain name. This is the custom domain that I'm using, manakoff.xyz. We're going to go to the DNS settings, and notice I only have 3 records there. For Web 1, we only need 3 records. If you have any additional records that you're not going to use, go ahead and click on this, and then you can go bulk edit, delete. So once you have all the records that we don't need, you can just go ahead and just delete them all. All right, so once you have all of the unused records deleted, what we can do now is add in the new records. And there's really only 3 records that we need. And so to add a new record, we can go ahead and hit add record A. And for the first record, we're going to use the asterisk symbol. Paste in the actual IP address of Netlify, which is right there. And then for the second record, we're going to do the exact same thing, a record with the @ symbol instead of the asterisk. That's a little bit confusing part. And the short version of that is we want to make sure that Hover is going to point to the right location. And those symbols do that with the asterisk and one with the @ symbol, both pointing to the same IP address. The last record, or third record, is the CNAME record or the canonical record. And the host name for the CNAME record is www. And the target is whatever Netlify gave you, right? Whatever subdomain Netlify gave you, .netlify.app. And this happens to be my subdomain. So where do we get this URL from? Well, once we get logged into Netlify, and I can go back from the beginning here. If you don't have your website up on Netlify, you can simply just drag and drop it into the space. But since we've already done that from previous classes, I'm going to go back into my project, go to domain settings, and then find it right here under default subdomain. And that's what we're looking for. And as soon as we put our website on Netlify, it gives us a default subdomain. So my default subdomain is going to be different than yours. And I'm just going to simply paste mine into here. And again, the target name is your domain, not mine, yours. And so to recap, here are the 3 records that we need. And here are the values. Check the website for these values. The next thing we need to do is take a look at Netlify. And what we want to do now is set up Netlify to receive any traffic from Hover. So by default, we get 1 domain from Hover, and that's all set up for us. But what we want to do now is, instead of using an IP address, we want to say, hey, anybody who types in manakoff.xyz or www.manakoff.xyz, right, make sure that they go to the right location. So to do that, we're going to simply do add domain alias, and we're going to paste in manakoff.xyz, okay, or your domain.xyz, I should say. Yourdomain.com or .inc or .design, whatever you purchased. And then we're going to do the exact same thing here, add in a second one, but with a www. And again, the short version is we want to make sure that we can point the users in the correct location, whether or not they type in www. And so now, once we have both of those set, and then what you can do is you can pick the one without the www, and you can set it as set primary domain. Now notice I don't get this option here to set as primary domain because this is already set as the primary domain. But if you wanted to switch it, you can go to options, set as primary domain. But for Web 1, grab the one without the www, and under the options, set it as the primary domain. But you can see here, because it's already the primary domain, we do not get that option. And then wait up to 24 hours and HTTPS should be turned on if everything is correct. And this is what we're looking for, and Netlify makes this process very, very easy. I have a VS Code downloaded and installed for my platform, and now what I'm going to do is install the live server extension. Again, the short version of the live server extension is give me a web server on my local computer. Turn my laptop, my PC, into a web server. We uploaded to a web server on CodePen. We uploaded to a web server on Netlify. In Web 2 and 3, we're going to be uploading to a web server called a GitHub. And but right now, your local computer isn't a web server. And so what we want to be able to do is have those features and functionality. And we'll know more about what those features are in future classes. But for right now, let's go into the extension section. And we're going to search for an extension called Live Server. And we want Live Server by Ritwik Day, not Live Share, but we want Live Server. And here's Ritwik Day. Here's Live Server. And we're going to go ahead and install that. And once we get that installed, we can click on the extensions again and double check that it is indeed installed. And now we see under enabled extensions, Live Server is indeed running. If you see the word disable and uninstall, you're good to go. That means it is indeed installed. So there are all the tools and services that we need to build a website for Web 1.